What's up, guys? It's Gary with Fresh from the Farm Fungi. I'm here in Denver, Colorado, and I wanted to discuss a few different methodologies for breeding Cordyceps. So this is a tub of Cordyceps militaris that's growing on rice. Cordyceps is one of the most interesting mushrooms, and I've got an update on the beetle. If you watched our previous video, there's still no growth on here, and I'm going to cover a little bit about why I think that there's no growth yet. It could be some kind of a bacterial or yeast contamination, and I'm going to do a different procedure for inoculating the spores. But anyway, Cordyceps is a really interesting mushroom. It's a entomopathogenic fungi, so that means that it digests insects as a host, and then it will fruit out of the insect and continue its lineage that way. So one of the downfalls about cultivating Cordyceps, and one of the hardest part about growing this mushroom, is that it senesces very quickly. So from generation to generation, it will degrade and cause mutations, and it won't fruit, and eventually you won't have a good culture. So one of the most important things when you're cultivating Cordyceps is that you have to continually breed fresh genetics, or you can breed fresh genetics and then store those long term, which we'll talk about later. But the focus of this video is going to be on the different methodologies for breeding Cordyceps. So there's a lot of information out there now. There's a lot of good companies that are breeding Cordyceps. I know that Terrestrial Fungi, they're a really good company, and Archipelago Gold, I believe, a company in New York, that they're doing a really good job. And there's a lot of leaders in this industry. William Padilla Brown has some good content, so the list goes on, but I'll just break down the different methods that I use and kind of compare them side by side. So the first method, which is pretty common in the mycology world, is the physical extraction of ascospores using water agar, which is just agar without any nutrients. So that's going to be the least technical method. It's still pretty technical, but you can do it with minimal equipment except for a microscope. So I borrowed my friend Zach's from Mushroom Cult. Shout out to Mushroom Cult. Just for this video, I usually don't use microscopes to do breeding, just because there's other techniques out there, which there's two other methods that I'd like to cover. So the next method is going to be a streak isolation. So you do a 3-part streak with a loop, and that way you can isolate single ascospores using a liquid spore dilution. And then a third methodology, which is common practice in Asia for some of the other mushrooms. I'm not sure if they use this for Cordyceps or not, but you can take spores and drop them into a liquid culture. So the ascospores will form hyphae, and then those will link together, and then you can breed mushrooms in a liquid culture that way too. So I'll go over those 3 methods, and I'll start with the water agar and isolating single ascospores using a microscope. Alright guys, so I'm down here in my lab, and I've got a few different supplies to go over. So first and foremost, I've got my tub with Cordyceps. So we have a laminar flow, so I can open this lid and not worrying about any contamination. Well, you can see how thick those fruiting bodies are, and they're starting to get pretty mature. This one especially, you can see the ridges, so that's going to be an ideal one to produce ascospores. And then as I come over here, I've got my forceps which I'm going to be using to pluck out or harvest my Cordyceps. I've got some sterile water that's cooled overnight. I've got my inoculation loop and some sterile loops to do my 3-part streak. And then I've got some water agar plates. So this is just agar on a petri dish. You can see it's quite clear and it's deprived of nutrients so that when the spores drop, they won't germinate too fast, and we can isolate these and move them onto nutrient-rich media. Then we've got our petroleum jelly to help the Cordyceps stick to the lids. I've got some sterile plates that I'm going to be just collecting spores for my liquid culture, and then I've got some MEA or molten extract agar plates that these are going to be used for the 3-part streak. So I'll just go through my process on how I'm going to be doing my streaking, and I'm going to show you how to set the Cordyceps for the water agar, and then how I'm going to take a spore print with my Cordyceps. Alright, I'll flip this camera around. We're just going to be looking for thicker fruiting bodies with fully developed ascospores like this one. You can see it's almost furry, and that's going to have a lot of ascospore production. So this one here looks pretty good. And the first technique I'm going to do is a 3-part streak. So I'm just going to take my Cordyceps and place it in this sterile water, and my hopes are that it's going to put a lot of these spores into solution. I've also got a conical tube that's been in the fridge for a few weeks, and that's going to have a lot of spores in it too. But I just wanted to see the difference in concentration, because this is a lot more liquid, so it's going to have more diluted spores than my conical tube. So now I'm going to grab a couple water agar plates and a plate spreader here, so I can put some of this petroleum on the lid. So the main purpose of this petroleum is just to get the Cordyceps to stick to the lid so that they will only be dropping the spores So I'm just going to try to grab some really nice mature fruiting bodies. That one looks pretty good there. And then I'm just going to go over and stick this on the lid. And then you kind of want to make sure that it's not going to be hitting the auger. So you can see it's slightly raised, and that's going to be dropping spores onto the auger, which we can then use the sterile microscope and isolate single ascospores. So I'm going to grab another one of these. That one looks really nice, pretty thick. Again, it's got some distance on it. Alright, so now I'm just going to let these rest for about 4 to 6 hours, and as it's resting, it'll be dispersing its spores onto the water auger. So that's my first technique. And now I've got my MEA plates over here, so I'm going to do my couple streak plates. And then I'm gonna go grab my conical tube real quick. Alright, so you can see this has almost an orange tinge to it. So I'm going to do one plate with this, which has been in my refrigerator for a couple weeks, so it must have a lot more spores. And then I'll do a loop full of this fresh specimen here. So I like to use sterilization pouches for my loops because I don't like to use an open flame in the lab. I've had some issues in the past with mixing alcohol and flames, and I prefer to use the sterilization patches. And you know, these are really nice because they tell you when it's sterile, and you can like run a bunch of these and just always have, you know, sterile loops on hand. So I've got my loop here, and now I'm going to perform a 3-part streak. So first I'm just going to take my most concentrated solution and try to grab a mil. So you can see on the loop how that osmotic pressure from the water is across the loop, so that's going to be where all my spores are, in that little droplet of water. And I'm going to take that, put it on the petri dish, and kind of streak like this. And then I'm going to grab a new loop and then finish out my streaking. So the idea is that as I streak those spores across the plate, they'll slowly separate out, and then we'll get isolated colonies that way. Alright, so you can see where I streaked it right there. So I'm going to take this area and kind of drag it out across the plate, and then I'll just flip this around, and you can see the sheen where I streaked it. So I'm going to take from my last streak with the other side of the loop, and right in here I should get some isolated colonies. So that's going to be the concentrated one. And now I'm going to streak out the diluted solution that I just added the fresh Cordyceps from. Since I touched that part, I want to be very careful that I don't dump this whole thing into that sterile water. I'm just going to try to collect some spores right at the top. There we go. I got a nice droplet on there. And then, since this is more diluted, I'm just going to keep the same loop and kind of streak for isolation using the side to side and then the top of the loop at the very end. So this is going to be the diluted spore solution. Alright, and then to add spores to a liquid culture, I'm going to need a sterile spore print. So I'm going to do the same thing as the water auger, but just using a sterile plate with petroleum on the lid. I'm going to try to collect a lot of spores so that I could use, kind of scrape them off the surface and then put them into a liquid culture. This is how I get spore prints for Cordyceps. I need a little more jelly on there. Alright guys, so there you have it. We've got our isolation streaks, and then we've got the water auger, and then we've got spore prints being made. So 3 different methods for breeding Cordyceps, and I will go through the physical isolation of these ascospores next. Alright guys, so while the spores are dropping on these plates here, I thought I'd go over this Japanese beetle that I infected with the Cordyceps spores. So it's been about 3 weeks and there's still no growth on here, but if you look pretty closely, there's like a beige tinge around the beetle. So I have a feeling that it's either bacteria or yeast that's preventing any of the spores from growing. I went out and gathered some more beetles throughout the week, and I'm going to do a hydrogen peroxide wash this time. So that should essentially remove any bacteria spores or fungal spores that might be on the beetles from coming from the outside. And then when I inoculate with the spores from the Cordyceps, they should have less competition to take over the beetle. So I'm also going to take a piece of tissue from the tub that's growing, and then I want to try inoculating it onto water auger next to the beetle. Maybe that, you know, there's enough nutrients in the beetle that the mycelium will make the jump. And I don't want to use nutrient auger because I feel like it will just seek out the malt extract over the beetle. So I'm going to do a couple plates like that, and then try to inoculate some more spores, see how this round goes, and then I'll just keep this in the incubator and see, you know, if anything happens. Alright, I'll flip this around. So I'm going to just be using 3% hydrogen peroxide and enough to cover the beetles. And then I've got some plates here, so I'll do a couple more beetles. Just plain petri dishes, and then I want to try a couple with the tissue on the water auger. So you just kind of want to wash them just so that hydrogen peroxide will kill any of the spores that are on the beetles, so that will be a clean slate for the Cordyceps spores. So since I won't be using this spore solution anymore, I'm just going to grab my forceps and go dunk my beetles into the spore solution and then put them on the plate. But before that, I want to try to take a piece of this tissue here. So I've got it on my water auger, and then I'm going to take one of the beetles from the peroxide wash. Put it in contact with the tissue. So my hopes are that it will jump from the mycelium over into the beetle, and then I can isolate the tissue once it grows onto the beetle. So I'll grab another healthy looking piece over here. I can force the mycelium to jump over to the beetle. Alright guys, so I'm going to just show you a peek of this. It looks like I can start seeing some spores. So they're definitely dropping. And I'm going to set up this microscope here under the hood so that I can start selecting isolates. But that's the update on the beetles. So I'll keep you guys posted on the hydrogen peroxide washed beetles as well as the ones on the water auger. Alright. Okay guys, so this is about after 3 hours on the water auger plate, and you can see all these ascospores that have dropped below the Cordyceps. So we're going to be targeting a single ascospore like this one, or you want to look around the perimeter, kind of by where this pointer is right now. That's a good one. So I'm going to pull out my scalpel and do some dissection work, but you can see right here, I mean, they're kind of visible at this point. See that streak right there? Those are going to be the ascospores, but we're going to be trying to shoot for the ones on the perimeter here where they're going to be isolated. So I don't know if you can see right there. That's kind of where the optics are located, and I'm going to get a scalpel and isolate that, and then we've got some malt extract auger, so we'll just put all of our isolates on the auger, and I'm just going to be using number 11 blade, so just a surgical blade here. So it's going to be kind of tedious work, but I'll kind of zoom out and show you how I get some isolates. Alright guys, so you can see a pretty good shot of that single ascospore right by the pointer. And it's pretty easy to reference where my last slice was, so I'm going to try my best to get a little piece of this guy up. And you can see how tedious that is, but I'm going to transfer it to this plate. And there you go. So I'm going to continue to start collecting ascospores one at a time, and then I'll label them over here. Alright. Okay guys, so I'm going to finish up doing these isolates here. I'm probably going to do about, I don't know, 15 different isolates, and then those are going to grow out on the MEA. And then when they are fully grown, then I'll cross them with each other to see if we can get a mating type. At the same time, I'm just going to take these leftover lids and put them on some fresh petri dishes so that I'll get some nice spore print, and then I'll keep you updated on the liquid culture. So the idea of using the sterile petri dish and keeping the mushroom above is that only spores will, ascospores from the Cordyceps will get in there, and then I can use a sterile blade and then inject those into a sterile broth so that the ascospores will germinate and they'll cross with each other. I'll do another video on that as I update the progress on these spore isolates. But I'm very excited. I got some really nice looking Cordyceps, and hopefully soon we'll be able to get our own breed out there. But give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Share this content if you think other people will find it useful. We really appreciate all you guys watching and following along. Everyone adds a lot of value in the comments. If you see anything that I missed or have any suggestions, feel free to comment. And check out our Etsy. We've got a fresh batch of plates on Etsy, and then we'll be updating every third or fourth Friday with whatever new strains that we're running for the market. Shout out to Cherry Creek Market. We're gonna be there every Saturday until mid-November. And if you're in Denver, check out our website. We got our mushrooms all over Denver, and at the Co-op, Bolter's 5280, and Four Seasons and Wheat Ridge. Shout out to Four Seasons. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up doing these isolates. Give us a thumbs up, and until next time, much love.